And welcome to another episode of Primility Primer, our morning reminder of the power of balancing pride and humility as we go about our daily lives. This is episode number 41. I am Jared Morris. And today, there's a couple of things I want to talk about today. And I want to start by going back to a blog post that I wrote in March. It was actually on March 13th. And the blog post is called Hold the Spotlight, Spread It Around. And if you're on the email list and you got yesterday's Monday email newsletter, I talked about this because I love this idea. And this is from actually a basketball coach. His name is Bob McKillop from Davidson University, if you're not familiar with college basketball. A very, very successful coach, Coach Stephen Curry when he was in college. But this is an excerpt from a profile of McKillop. And so he's recounting a story. And he says, in January, we met in our film room, McKillop said. There's a big floor lamp, and I picked it up and stuck it near a guy's face and said, that's a spotlight. I left it there for a minute and said, how does it feel? He said, pretty hot. Then I said, well, let's move the spotlight around. I waved it around the room. Now it's not so hot. Everyone's in the spotlight for a little bit. I told them that's what basketball is, and that's what life is. You need the confidence to hold the spotlight, but you need the humility to spread the spotlight around. So where did he get the idea? Oh, I stole it from somebody, I'm sure, McKillop said. I'm dumb as dirt. Well, he may be dumb as dirt, but that is a great idea, a great quote. I love it. Again, you need the confidence to hold the spotlight, but you need the humility to spread the spotlight around. And ever since I read that, I've really tried to take that to heart and to make that a part of what we do here at Primility, because obviously it starts with me having the confidence to step up and start this site and start this podcast and have the blog, and to kind of have that spotlight and create a spotlight here at Primility, but then to spread it around. And so in Monday's email newsletter, I shined it on Sonia Thompson, who started IamTheOne.fm. She's been blogging for a long time. Now she has her own podcast. She's written a guest post for us. In fact, she's wristband number 9 if you go to primility.com/wristbands. And so I pulled an excerpt from her post where she recounted her trip to South America, pulled an excerpt, and that was the subject of Monday's email newsletter. Well, a few hours later, after I sent that newsletter, I was actually on Facebook, and I was perusing our showrunner podcasting group community, a showrunner podcasting course community, which I lead with John Nastor of Hack the Entrepreneur. And I noticed that Samuel Hatton, one of our students, posted an interview that he did with Geoff Reese, another one of our students. And Sonia had commented about a particular part of the interview that she liked. And so I immediately went and listened to the interview, because I think it's great when members of our course are out there interviewing each other. And I just think it's wonderful. I love seeing that. And as I listened to the interview, the exact same part that jumped out to Sonia jumped out to me. And so I want to use this episode of Primility Primer, and hopefully future episodes as well, to take the spotlight and turn it outward and shine it on other people who are doing great things and who are espousing the ideals of Primility just through what they're talking about, what they're doing. And that certainly was the case here. You know, Samuel does it all the time with his show, Courageous Self-Confidence. And if you go to couragehub.com, you can see that. Got a chance to meet Samuel at Podcast Movement in Fort Worth. And this is a guy who truly lives what he's talking about. Just a positive, uplifting guy. And the same with Geoff Reese, who I also met in Fort Worth. He runs a show called Wake Up Your Why. And Geoff's mission is to help people find their why and live a life that matters. And it's great when you see these projects that people have, but then you meet them in person and you realize that their projects are just the embodiments of who they are, just an extension of them. And that's certainly true with these guys. And so if you go to couragehub.com/31, you'll get this interview. And the part of the interview that I love, and it's not a long interview, it's about 15, 16 minutes. It's really well done. And the part of the interview I love is this line right here. And Samuel asked Geoff about his experience podcasting and what it's been like. And Geoff explains what many of podcasters go through, you know, talking about the trepidation at the beginning of who's going to listen and what do I have to say? And, you know, is this really the right medium? And am I going to see success with it? Will it matter? And he's explaining this, and then Samuel asks him what he has done to overcome this. And in addition to prayer, because Geoff is very, very religious, and that is a big part of who he is and what he does, in addition to prayer, he said this, and it is, if I've got something that can change people's lives, it's my duty to offer that. If I've got something of impact in a way that I can impact other people, then I'm doing a disservice to people by keeping that to myself. And this is an idea that has been foundational about Primility really ever since I started the website way back in the day, which is that if this has been helpful to me, and if I really feel like it can help other people, it's not arrogant to go out and start talking about these ideas. It's almost a duty to put these ideas out there, to have pride, to stand up and say, hey, I've got something meaningful to say. I know that at a minimum it works for me, and I'm not that much different from all these other people out here. So surely there's other people it can work for. I need to step up and say this because it could help people. And just on the off chance that it could help one person or some people, I've got a duty to the other people who were in my sphere of influence to step up and say it. And there's obviously a humility in that too, in putting aside your own fear, your own, the vanity that makes us not want to step up and not potentially embarrass ourselves or put ourselves out there. We have to put that to the side with the belief and the understanding that, hey, maybe by doing this, maybe we struggle and it's hard and we take some criticism or we take some judgment. But if we can pierce through all that and get to the people that the message will really mean something to, then that's worth everything else. And that to me has been so foundational. And there's just such a balance of pride and humility inherent in that, at least to me, at least as I look at it. And that's what I heard when Geoff said that. And I'll read the quote again. If I've got something that can change people's lives, it's my duty to offer that. If I've got something of impact in a way that I can impact other people, then I'm doing a disservice to people by keeping that to myself. And that's why Geoff started Wake Up Your Why. And I know that's the same reason why Samuel started Courage Hub, Courageous Self-Confidence, and why Sonia is starting I Am the One. These are three people that believe they have something to add and that they can help people. And they simply can't not get their message out there because they would be doing a disservice to people by not doing it. So my goal with this episode is to shine a spotlight on those three individuals: Sonia Thompson, Samuel Hatton, and Geoff Reese, people I've worked with that I know personally that are really doing important stuff and that have something important to say, are facing their fear, because we all have that fear. And I know I've talked to each one of them individually about it, and I know they have that fear, but they find a reason to overcome it. And that's why the pride part of Primility is so important, because sometimes that humility is so strong that it can make us meek and it can prevent us from standing up. But we've got to, that pride of thinking of other people and really wanting to help others and contribute to the greater good, that's got to be combined with just a personal sense of pride in the value of our message and in what we have to say and when it is. And when that primility is true, then something great can happen. And I think all three of these people embody that. And so I highly recommend that you check them out, check out their shows, and just get to know what they're doing, or if nothing else, at least be inspired by this 10, 11-minute discussion of their example, because it's worthwhile and it's something that we would all do well to follow and to emulate. So kudos to all three of you. And I will simply end this by asking you, listening right now, what message do you have that people need to hear? And are you doing other people a disservice by not getting it out there? Maybe there isn't anything yet, and that's okay. Maybe you haven't found that thing. But is there something inside, something that's really helped you that you're afraid to get out there, to tell other people, even one other person? You don't have to start a podcast, but even just one other person who you think it might help. You may be doing them a disservice by not telling them. Maybe try just thinking about that thing, whatever it is, within that context. See if it changes your outlook. See if it compels you to say what you haven't been willing to say or what you've been afraid to say, because it just might be the statement or the thought or the idea that makes a positive change for someone else for the better. And man, if you can do that, it is the best feeling in the world. So I highly recommend, highly encourage you to do it, because it won't just change their lives, it'll change yours as well. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Primility Primer. As always, you can go to primility.com/join and get on our email list so that you never miss the Monday newsletter or the Friday digest, which allows you to catch up on our week's worth of shows. And again, just make sure that you don't miss one that might be relevant to you. I appreciate you being here. We'll be back tomorrow with another brand new episode of Primility Primer. Until then, stay cognizant of your pride and your humility. Respond.